Never seen a murder before. I'm homeschooled.
Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Sydney Thompson.
I'm Monica Height.
And I'm Chelsea Duff.
And this week we are talking about a movie that on the second watch has now entered my top 5, I think, ever movies that I've ever watched before. I choked because I'm emotional about this movie. But it's called Get Duked with an exclamation point on the end. That's important.
Oh, let me put that in my notes then.
Oh, yes. I just realized I didn't have it in my notes either. And
oh my
wrong.
God, Monica, please get on the ball.
I'm so sorry.
Punctuation is everything.
So this movie is just the best. It came out last year in 2020, but it was premiered in 2019 at South by Southwest. So I seen it before, but you guys hadn't. What did you think?
You know, I wasn't sure what to expect when you described it to us. I mean, I was like, if Monica likes it, I'm down. I'll check it out.
Because I have great taste, yes.
I don't know what I was thinking other than I was like, hiking movie, boring. But also in my head, I was picturing like half romance novel cover and half like Highlands themed porn where it's like four beefy shirtless dudes in kilts. And I don't know why that's where my brain went. But so I was completely unprepared for what this was. But once I was like, oh, okay, I'm like picking up on the vibe here. I loved it. I really have like really liked and enjoyed little UK teen shows in the past. Like In-Betweeners is I like it, but it's a little too secondhand embarrassment for me a lot of the time. But I really liked Some Girls and I love Dairy Girls. And I think this is a very like In-Betweeners-esque movie. I'm telling all of my friends who like In-Betweeners, they need to watch Get Duked now, like immediately, like turn on Amazon Prime right now. You know what I mean?
So are you telling me to watch the In-Betweeners because I haven't seen it, but I loved Get Duked?
Actually, yes, I now am telling you to watch In-Betweeners and also Some Girls if you can find it, and also Dairy Girls if you haven't yet. But that aside, Get Duked right now, amazing flawless film, loved it.
I'm so glad you liked it.
This is the second movie that Monica has suggested that I was very confused on the first watch and definitely still needed subtitles, but really enjoyed it on that second watch.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it's a trend with me that I like movies that are in English, but you can barely tell. It's like an added layer of mystery. But yeah, Sydney texted me on Saturday and she was like, I have no idea what's going on. And I was like, okay, like what part are you at? She's like, there's something going on with a bread thief. Like I have no clue. And I was like, I hadn't rewatched yet. So I was like, I don't remember which part she's at. She's like, all I know is they're saying that babies can't have baguettes.
Tragic, first of all.
Which is a legitimate plot line of this movie.
It is the full B plot of this movie.
It's a great B plot. It's a wonderful B plot. Oh man, I didn't want to tell you guys too much about the movie going in because like you wouldn't have believed me if I had described it. It's absolutely batshit insane. And if I had been like, oh, it's like a crazy druggy romp, there's rabbit shit involved, you'd be like, ew.
I feel like it is such a spiritual, not successor necessarily, but like it spiritually is related to Misfits as well. And I know I just keep, am I just like saying UK shows that I know to be like, wow, I'm so knowledgeable about pop culture? Maybe. But Misfits does that same kind of like comedy weird gang thrown together, they would do like an episode where they're getting chased by somebody and they're eating rabbit shits. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, totally. That show is so incredible if you haven't seen it. Robert Sheehan in his prime, just so beautiful. The guy, oh, what's the guy? Simon. What's
can
his
you
name?
I know his name, but I am so hesitant to try and say it. But Ramsay from Game of Thrones, I'm
Ramsay from
gonna
Game of
just
Thrones.
go for it and be like, no, sorry.
Just gonna go for it, and I'm not gonna go for it.
I love to commit to something and then bail. That is very in my nature, and that's what happened there. And we're gonna move forward.
It's okay, it's okay. While that was happening, my boyfriend just walked into the room and handed me a single piece of bacon and then walked out. So I thought that that was important context.
King.
Yeah, but okay, so basically, if you're absolutely confused and have no idea what's going on, let me read you the synopsis of this movie. I learned a new word today because of it, because of this synopsis. So here you go. An anarchic, hip hop inspired comedy that follows four city boys on a wilderness trek as they try to escape a mysterious huntsman. Good.
Dun dun dun.
Wow. That really just doesn't get you even half the way there, though.
Not at all. Like, that's a horrible movie description.
Because that's the description you gave us, and I was like, snooze. But then I watched this movie, and I was like, everybody should see this movie.
It is the opposite of snooze. And it's so awesome because this movie is the directorial debut of, and I'm sorry if I pronounce this wrong, Ninian Doff. And
I thought it said Duff at first when I saw the credits, and I was like, "Oh, I claim this. This is Kin." And then I had to backtrack, unfortunately.
You know what? It could have been like
an Ellis
spelling,
Island.
an Ellis spelling.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly. That's what
right.
it is. So Ninian Doff comes from the world of music video directing, and this is their first movie, and it like totally shows because you can see like the pacing. Like I'm obsessed with music videos. Like that's what I do in my free time. I watch scary movie trailers, and I never watch the movie, and I watch music videos all day, every day. So maybe that's why I loved this so much. Also, the fact that this has this movie has the best soundtrack freaking ever, including a Run the Jewels track, which like I freaking love Run the Jewels.
They did a whole Run the Jewels collaboration. I think the song is called Out of Sight with 2 Chainz, and the music video stars these 4 young lads in character and is directed by, what did you say the director's name is? My friend Doff, my cousin Doff.
Ninian Doff.
Amazing.
Ninian? That's the name.
Yes. Perfect. Exactly what I was gonna say. So clearly there's just like a lot of like conversation between these 2 different spheres that's happening, and it makes for a really fun movie, especially because one of the main young lads is a DJ. His stage name is DJ Beetroot. His work absolutely slaps. We get like 2 miniature music videos within the movie basically, and they're so iconic.
Absolutely,
they're so funny.
Iconic. Oh my god. Okay, so let's like get into the cast of characters here because like the main 4 boys, like I'm in love with all of them in their own special way. They're so perfect. So, okay, we started with DJ Beetroot, and I like the way that he says it because he pronounces the T in beetroot.
He really hits that T, really enunciates that T.
He hits that T.
And it's B-E-A-T, not B-E-E-T root.
It has nothing to do with the vegetable, just to be clear. Vegetables are irrelevant here. He is the root of the beet.
He's the root of the beat. He's the root of the beat. Okay.
But also, his real name is William de Beauvoir, which I thought was so cute and posh.
It's so posh. Yeah. The whole thing with his character is he tries to be like, I'm from the mean streets, blah, blah, blah. I've got street cred. But like in reality, he's like the poshest guy out of the entire group. He wears all white to a fucking like 3-day long, like mile and mile hike, like 55-mile hike.
And he mostly keeps it white, which is very impressive. Like, there's one moment even where he has to go through the mud, and instead of daring to dirty his sneakers, he makes one of the other boys give him a piggyback ride.
Or
Loved
Duncan.
it.
Okay, well, then let's talk about Duncan next. Duncan is the sweet, beautiful idiot.
But also
Aw,
the brains of the
Dunky.
operation.
He actually is. Like, everybody jokes around that he is like, oh, he's the brains, but they're kidding because they think he's a fool, though they love him. But actually, he has the best ideas, 100%.
Listen, he also has a well-sharp fork, so he's fine. He's
Well,
prepared.
he brought so many things that aided them in this journey, and also people call him the brains, you guys. Like, that's his Xbox Live handle name, so people call him that.
It's true. It's true. And so Duncan's the reason that they're all there. So basically, the premise is that these three of these boys, Dean, who we'll explain in a second, Duncan, and DJ Beetroot, have to do this giant trek basically to keep from getting expelled from school because, and I saw this wording in an article about this movie, Duncan tried to flambe a turd. So he tried to light a turd on fire, his own turd. That's an important detail. And so then it wouldn't catch on fire, so he put a whole bunch of lighter fluid on it, and then he lit it on fire, and it exploded the entire bathroom of the school. And these good boys, Dean and DJ Beetroot, decided to take the blame with Duncan so he wouldn't just get expelled. And I think that's true friendship.
That's what Ian thought, but what they really said was that they wanted to all be expelled so that they didn't have to go to school anymore. But instead, they had to do this right.
The best laid plans, man.
Didn't they, isn't it shown that while the school is on fire that they filmed a music video for DJ?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if the flaming turd was like the concept of the music video or if they just seized the moment. I transcribed a lot of conversations from this movie, but not that one. So forgive me if I got the details wrong a little bit, but absolutely these boys know how to make a moment worthwhile.
100%.
Aesthetic.
They were like,
Perfect.
wait a minute, this is pure gold. And then DJ Beetroot comes out with a stellar rap about his dick. So fantastic.
What else is there to rap about, honestly?
No, seriously.
Can't think of a single thing.
I mean, he tells us in the movie, there's one moment where he does a little rhyme, and he's like, that's the first rap I've ever written that wasn't about my dick. And I was like, I want to hear the rest of these dick raps. His EP, I don't know if it's a full album, but his like mixtape that he's handing out throughout the movie is called Cocktails.
Yes.
I need more.
Oh my god. And of course, it's like, I get that it's supposed to be like cocktails, but my first thought when I saw that, because it spelled tails like a tale as old as time, I thought of DuckTales too. So that was really nice.
Cocktails, cocks, roosters, ducktails. There's a lot of levels at play here.
Whoa.
DJ Beetroot, an innovator, a genius, a prodigy, a rap superstar. The future of hip hop, truly.
The future of hip hop. So the third person in the trio is Dean, and we love Dean. Dean is a little stoner boy. This movie is so stylistic. Like when they introduce each new character, they do like a little flashback of like some like headlines about who the person is. And in his, like for a hot second, and if maybe I hallucinated it, they're like banned from all parks. So Dean has somehow been banned from all parks. Like I don't know what he did, but good for him.
What a bad boy.
I know. He's got beautiful blue eyes. He's got an absolutely terrible haircut. And you know, he's got like the deep heart and soul, as we find out throughout the film. He's very deep, and he understands the horrible things that come with classism, you know? So
yeah, I mean, if Duncan is the brains, I would for sure say Dean is the heart and DJ Beetroot is the soul, perhaps.
Yes.
The rhythm, maybe? I don't know.
He's got the
working
beat
up
for
the
sure.
dynamic. But they add in a fourth boy so that these little three delinquents have kind of an obstacle to overcome immediately, which is they have to work with a boy named Ian, and he is there because he is just a sweet young thing who likes the outdoors. Maybe I don't know if he does like the outdoors or if he just wants
think
what
He
he
just
wants
wants.
to compete in what's it called, the Duke of Edinburgh something award.
Award.
That's all.
He
Is it
wants.
the Duke of Edinburgh award? Oh, I
That's
guess
it.
Yes.
that's it right there in my notes. An outdoor challenge set up in the 1956 to take young delinquents out of the city and into the countryside. So he like this is okay. This is a real thing in England apparently that the writer had done as a child. I believe I read on IMDb trivia. Don't know if there's anything like it in America, but my best equivalent is that like Ian wants this for his college applications basically. I think it's kind of like being an Eagle Scout in America.
Yes. That's what I was thinking too. I feel like like young Ian is just a little Catholic boy who loves the outdoors. I imagine he lives not in the city like the rest of the boys do. It seems like he's a little country bumpkin and we love him. And he just is
And he's
like
homeschooled.
and he's
homeschooled.
homeschooled. Also, he has the most cherubic little face. He just has got these little cheeks. He's so cute. I love looking at him. Um and he's the odd one out from the get-go, but he is
Which
a
is
very good boy.
so funny because we get the introduction with this trio of delinquents where they're being told they have to do this like award trek whatever. We see them in the van on the way over. They get out of the van, they get the whole spiel from their like substitute teacher or whatever, and then all of a sudden there's a fourth boy and you're like, how the fuck did that kid get here? Like, where did he come from? And then in the movie he's like, I literally was in the van the whole time. I said hi to you guys like a bunch of times. Nobody acknowledged or heard me. And you're just like, aw. Aw.
Ian. Oh, he just loves the outdoors, okay? He's just a little sweetie who wants something to look nice on his CV. See, I use the terms.
Wow.
CV. Yeah, I studied abroad in England, so I know about these
Oh,
things.
oh, okay.
Well, expertise to use on this
Yeah,
episode,
I
Monica.
spent like 2.5 months in Manchester, so
Oh my god,
yeah,
she's
it'll come
basically
in
a
handy.
local.
Uh-huh.
She just knows the things.
Yeah, I
Wow.
really do. I was like very familiar with like the accents even. That's why I didn't have trouble, at first understanding it. I sound like Alexis from Schitt's Creek right now. I can't take myself seriously. Oh man. Okay, so I mean, where do we even begin with this one, guys? We've got the cast of characters. They're my favorite boys. But like,
Can I say one
yes.
of my favorite thing? It's like right at the very beginning of this movie. And when I first watched it, I didn't notice it, so I wonder if y'all did. When they are watching the video of the Duke of Edinburgh award, and they're with Mr. Carlisle, and it says Duke of Edinburgh award means teamwork and helping others. And Mr. Carlisle stands in front of them, and you can see death like spelled out on the screen.
It, like
and
turns red.
yeah, and it turns red, and they're all just like sitting there like, what? Like, I didn't notice it the first time, but that was maybe one of my favorite things. I'm just like, let's kick off this movie. Let's go.
There's so many little things like that in this movie, like that you can tell. I think those are the little like music video-esque things that the director brings to it. They're like little like otherworldly indicators that pop up. Like there's all this fun stuff that happens with like when they take drugs and weird shit happens and like
Very 21
lighting
Jump Street.
changes.
If you guys have seen 21 Jump Street, you know, the whole sequence where they take drugs and things start like glitching around them. That's definitely what I thought of. But also, there's just so many little Easter eggs in here where, like, okay, Monica noticed the band from All Parks during Dean's intro. Everything went so fast for me during those moments, but I noticed during DJ Beetroot's there was like a piece of paper where he had written on it, and his plan was make music videos, be famous. And I was like, hell yeah.
What a great 5-year plan.
Oh my god. Wait, what is that quote where they ask what his what his name is, and he was like, oh fuck, I'm not gonna be able to find it. They're like, no, what's your real name? And he's like, well, last week it was MC like Hot Dick or something like that. Oh, excuse me, MC Dick Fire.
Okay, first of all, also iconic. This guy clearly has a talent for coming up with incredible DJ names, stage names. I would like to be assigned one. I couldn't personally come up with anything half so good, so I'm gonna need to write my cousin. Say the name again.
Ninian Doff.
Yeah. Gonna need to write my cousin Ninian and be like, yo, get me one of these fire names. Mick Dickfire, just like flawless.
MC.
You know what I mean?
It's not Nick.
Well, we don't know. It's in the UK. It could be Mick Dickfire. We don't know for sure that it's not.
Are you thinking like Irish, like McDonald's?
Or like Scottish, like Macduff. They're in the Scottish Highlands.
I'm dead. I'm gonna die.
Now I'm embarrassed, but I maintain that there's a small wiggle room there that it could be.
He literally says it out loud, so
I don't know what to tell you. I read the subtitles and it's stuck in my head.
no, okay, I will give you like, cause there's not like a dot after the M and a dot after the C. At first, I was like, "What the hell?" I was like, "What is this?" And then I was like, "Oh, MC."
That makes
Luckily,
sense.
I got those thoughts before I said it out loud.
In hindsight, that makes a lot more sense.
Oh my God.
Okay, but just to give you guys a little bit of a taste of the absolute fire lyrics that spout from the brain of DJ Beetroot, aka Mick Dickfire. His first rap starts out, "My dick is a Tyrannosaurus, balls big like a bull, 100% Taurus."
I love a man that loves astrology.
Oh yeah, he loves it. "Make you come so loud, you'll sound like a Greek chorus. You'll make new noises, so please bring a thesaurus. Listen."
That's my favorite line.
I never noticed that he said that until now. I always was so wrapped up with 100% Taurus that my brain shuts off for the next like 5 seconds. Oh my god.
Okay, finish the rap though, because I love it.
Okay. Then he goes on to say, "They call my dick Loch Ness cause it's a giant mystery. Forget inches, I'm talking miles. The biggest dick in history. Girl, you'll be screaming. They'll call it a symphony cause my dick's the elephant in the room, not a metaphor. Literally." Oh, oh my God.
Incredible.
I
Fire.
like reading that as a spoken word also. That was fun.
It's honestly, can't think of a single thing better. Have never heard a better rap in my life. We need to get this guy on the radio stat.
No, 100%. Yeah, we got to make that happen.
That's a lie. I have heard a better rap in my life, and it's the one that comes later in this movie.
That's exactly what I was about to say. That one only surpassed the first like 2 lines of the second rap are so good, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. So I mean, the beginning of this movie, they really try to put a lot of doubt on Mr. Carlisle. Mr. Carlisle is their like kind of bad at his job teacher that is supervising them, who's kind of just like, yeah, just go there into the hills and bye. But you know, it turns out that there are bigger worries out in the Scottish Highlands than just Mr. Carlisle. There is the absolute wonder of my life, the beautiful Eddie Izzard out there as the Duke. And honestly, I love the villains in this movie. They're so good.
The masks that they wear are so creepy. I
Absolutely
was like,
terrifying.
is it real skin, do we think?
That's what I was reading some articles about the movie, and they're like, yeah, and Eddie Izzard wears a mask made out of human skin. And I was like, I was thinking that they were masks that they were wearing that are plastic, but that's more fun, I guess. Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
that's an interesting. I thought you meant like in real life for a second. I was about to be like, no, but now I understand the scope of the question. But I will say in the second rap, there is a reference to the masks, and I don't know if we're supposed to take it like DJ Beetroot is very much rapping to the camera at that point, like direct to the audience. So I'm not sure how meta it's supposed to be in that moment. But DJ Beetroot raps, and this is just a small excerpt, so don't get too excited. But never seen a mask like this on our screen. The Duke's rubber cast haunts our dreams. So I don't know.
I would like to think that it's not real skin, but I wouldn't put
guess,
it past
okay,
these
here's the
absolute
thing.
psychos.
So this movie, incredible comedy, but it kind of follows in the same tradition as like The Purge and all those other movies where rich people hunt poor people, and like people they think are gonna go missing, which is like 1 billion things. But if you do it in a fresh way, it's always fun, and this movie did. But so the Duke and we later learned the Duchess as well. The Duke are particularly interested in hunting like miscreant youth, basically, and their masks are like scary old people masks. So I don't know what old people they would have been hunting in order to get that wrinkly
Yeah.
human skin. So I think
That's what I
it's
was
probably just a
thinking.
mask.
I will say, like, probably with skin, once you like take it off the body and it ages a little bit, it'll probably wrinkle.
But it would like
You know?
like a shrunken. Well, I don't know the process to shrink a head for a shrunken head, but you know how they say like your nails and this is gross. I'm sorry, but your nails and hair don't like grow after death. It's just that like once
Your
dehydrated,
skin
your skin.
retracts.
Yeah, so I think it would be the
Oh.
opposite, where it would not be like looking wrinkly and old, as it would be like tightening and maybe cracked once it's so dehydrated.
It would be more leathery than it was.
Yeah, but if they're wearing it, they're probably moisturizing it a little bit.
Oh,
That's true.
God.
They could be keeping it
I almost threw up.
supple.
Exactly. Moisturize me.
This is an
God.
interesting thought question.
Either way. I mean, it's definitely a hyper hydrated skin mask. That's
These are
definitely
rich
what it is.
people. Like, do we think that they're above taking the blood of their victims to moisturize their skin masks? You know what I mean? Like, you know how, what's that countess back in the day who bathed in the blood of virgins to stay
Oh.
young? Like, I'm sure they could have some of that stuff going on. They don't really mention it in the film, but I don't think they're above that by any means. And I certainly don't think that while it may not be their initial cause, because what they're trying to do is just like clean up the world or whatever.
Cull the
You
herd.
know what I mean? They're trying to cull the herd, but if you're in the process of doing that and you've got, well, I don't know how many of these missing children are virgins if they're all teenage delinquents. That's a whole other conversation. Although I
God.
think these 4 probably are virgins, so maybe many of them are. You don't have to be a slutty teen to be a naughty teen. You know what I mean? There's a lot of different levels and layers there. But if you've got virgin blood from culling the herd, like, why wouldn't you put it to a good use?
No, totally. You don't want to just like let that blood go
Valuable
bad. It's
commodity, you know what I
wasteful.
mean? And these are rich people, so they're not gonna, not that rich people don't waste resources literally all the time, because that's also a thing in being rich a lot of the time, but I feel like if you've got virgin blood right there, it just feels like maybe
You gotta use it.
put it to work.
100%. And also, it's super clear to me that this group of absolute unhinged rich psychos have like a very intricate home life filled with ritual. um,
They've got
because,
family
like,
swords. They're all about like
yes.
antlers and stuff. I don't know.
Oh yes. There are so many times where they could have just absolutely ended Ian's life when they capture him, but instead they have to sing a song like 20 times about a fox and blood-soaked hands, and they have to put him in furs and antlers and blindfold him and all this different shit. And I'm just like, okay, well, you're really focusing on some parts, but not the actual culling of the herd, which I'm happy because Ian is my favorite bean. But maybe you'd be in a better place if you weren't doing all this weird shit.
Yes, lots of focus on tradition, on rituals, which I appreciate from an aesthetic perspective. And I also appreciate because there was one point where I was like, if Ian dies, I am going to be furious and I won't like this movie much. And I don't want to see these boys picked off one by one. I want them all to survive. And if that doesn't happen, I will possibly lose my shit and throw a tantrum.
Fair.
Like spoilers or whatever. But thank God that this is a comedy, and so that's the kind of movie it was.
Mm-hmm. Thank God it's not just some bleak shit.
Yes,
imagine if I was like, you guys are gonna love this movie, and it starts out all fun and you're having a great time, and then every one of the cute little boys gets killed.
like it happens in movies, and like they can be funny and people can die, and that's fine, and it's been of value to me in the past. But in this particular movie where it's about a squad, I was like, squad goals, I wanted to stay a squad. You know what I mean? Like, don't take this away from me.
Squad goals. We
Squad
found
goals.
the perfect squad.
Come
We
on.
cannot break them up.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God.
That's how I felt.
I also love, okay, the first moment when the boys meet the Duke, they think that he is actually the Duke of Edinburgh for like coming to check in on if they're doing their shit right, which is hilarious. But then like immediately when they start getting shot at, they start trying to figure out what to do. And okay, this is when one of our favorite quotes comes into play. Or I don't know if we wrote this one down, but Dean makes it clear that he can make a bomb to try to stop the
Believe
Duke.
me, I transcribed this whole little bit because it was
Oh,
so
do you want to read it?
perfect. Yes. Okay. So there are a lot of really amazing moments in this film, a lot of really good conversations. One of my favorite ones actually happened earlier in the film. Maybe we'll circle back to it, but there's like a whole orienteering conversation that goes
Oh
off
my
the
God, we
rails.
can do that now.
Oh yeah, we can do that now.
I freaking love this, is like the best.
Yes. Okay, first of all, the banter in this film, incredible. I love it.
God tier.
Just a warning that things are about to get racial. There's a lot of race humor in this movie, but it is like so clever and so smart and never like at a minority's benefit. It's always like on the white people basically, which is the best way to do it. Punch up, don't punch down, blah, 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 comedy, whatever. Anyway, so... And okay, this actually is super relevant because I was going to bring up the bottom of this quote in response to seeing the Duke and thinking it's the Duke because there's also, I don't want to spoil it. I'll just read it. Anyway, so Ian says, right, so how are we going to find the campsite? And I think it's Dean. I didn't write down who says what, so I'll just approximate. Dean is like, look, you're the one that got us lost. And Ian says, no, I'm not. You're just lousy at orienteering. And then DJ Beetroot, who is presumably Indian or Bengali, some kind of South Asian, is like, whoa, did you just call me a lousy Oriental? And Ian is like, orienteering. And then someone says, look, I'll find the way. And then Duncan, sweetheart, heart of my life, says, the O word is very offensive, Ian. And Ian says, orienteering? And then DJ Beaver says, stop saying it, bruv. He says, bruv. I love it.
Oh, I love when he says bruv.
Yes, and then Dean says, we'll just vibe it out. That's what the Duke of Edinburgh Award is all about. And then Ian says, no, the Duke of Edinburgh Award is about orienteering. And then DJ Beetroot says, whoa. And then Duncan says, maybe you should think a bit more about Orient's feelings. And then DJ Beetroot says, thank you, Duncan. Kind of. Look, I'm not Chinese, so that makes it double racist, really. And then Ian's like, I know you're not Chinese. Well, no, I'm just saying that we all need to start orienteering. And then the conversation goes off the rails because Dean says, fuck the Duke of Edinburgh. He's not even real. And then Ian is like, and he's like, what? And he's like, well, he's like Santa, isn't he? And they're like, no, he's the Queen's husband. And that's just two of my favorite interactions in one, the whole oriental thing, very funny, so well done. And then think the Duke of Edinburgh is like a mythical figure like Father Christmas, who, by the way, also has a connection to this movie because the guy who played Father Christmas in the Chronicles of Narnia is in this film. Beautiful. Incredible.
Oh my god.
Anyway, that brings us to our next conversation that I transcribed, which is the bomb building one, in which case someone says, probably Duncan is like, Ian says, how do you know how to make a bomb? And Dean is like, I downloaded the terrorist handbook, didn't I? And Ian is like, the government have monitors on that stuff, and you'll be on the list now. And Dean, a total smarty, says, come on, I'm not stupid. I didn't download it at my house. DJ Beetroot, knowing how these things can go sometimes, says, whoa, whose house did you download it at? And Dean is like, Duncan's. And DJ Beetroot is like, oh, appreciate that, man. And that's when Duncan is like, wait a minute. I mean, and Dean says, your name is Duncan McDonald, right? You're the whitest white guy I've ever met. You're basically albino, except he says albino, which is so sweet.
Albino.
I wouldn't worry. And then that's very funny also because cut to the police station. We're now getting a view of a police station, and they have his name written down as like Duncan McDonald, like as Celtic Irish as you can get to be like, oh no, Irish terrorism, which is also a thing in the UK that these little white boys like clearly did not anticipate. It's just got so many lovely little layers here. It's so layers.
Also, I have to bring this up now because I'll forget otherwise. This movie does such a good job of taking like one little tiny instant of the film and bringing it back around full circle in like the best possible way. Like they do it with the fork, do it with a whole bunch of different things. But one point is Duncan, his picture that they show is him like cheesing like with this huge grin with two thumbs up right next to his face. and that's like the terrorist photo that the police has in scare quotes. And at the end of the movie, Duncan comes face to face with the female police officer, and he's like, I'm Duncan, and he does the exact same face, and she looks at him and she's like, do I know you from somewhere? Like an absolute idiot. Like she doesn't put anything together at all. And I just loved that. I love that they bring that around. Also, I have to say this, and I'm sorry, but we're going to be saying this word a whole bunch of times. It's Edinburgh, not Edinburgh. Just saying.
Have I been saying Edinburgh the whole time?
It is fluctuated throughout. I just realized, and then while you were reading those quotes, I literally Googled the pronunciation and played a video to myself so I could be sure, because I was like, I don't know if that's right, but I have been there, so okay, it is Edinburgh. And that makes
to Scotland at large. I am Scottish, so it's actually okay for me to say.
It's true.
But apologies still.
It's okay. I probably butchered Ninian, so I'm really sorry for that too.
Nobody can count on us to get the names of people or places right. That should have been clear a long time ago.
Yeah, that's one of the rules.
That's one of our fun little quirks. You guys love that about us.
It's part of our charm.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
3 beautiful idiots doing their best to pronounce things. Nobody knows how. Sometimes we don't try.
Okay, my favorite part of the bomb part of this movie, though, is that, like, Duncan is the one who actually makes a bomb. Like, so
Duncan,
fast.
the brains come into play. And also the way we see his brain working on screen as he comes up with the plan. beautiful, so well done,
Stunning.
so well put together visually. Because Dean builds this bomb with a campfire, basically, where it's so cute. He like has the matches going all around it, like a spiral staircase up to the top, and then he
It's
turns the
very aesthetic.
campfire on. But then when he lobs it, all it does is like light the top of the campfire. It does not explode because
And then
that's how it's
Eddie
supposed to work.
and then Eddie Izzard is just like absolutely railing on
He
them, being like,
roasts them.
"Oh, can I have a cup of tea? Can you throw down some crockery so I can make a cup of tea?" Like, it's so funny.
But then Duncan, the brains, comes in and he's like, we've got, I don't know what he says, aerodynamic projectile or whatever with like the cocktails mix CD. And they've already ripped up a portion of the map, which is a very funny gag because they're like, we just ripped off a corner. We don't need that. The part that we need is in the middle. But when you unfold the map, the corner that they ripped off is like the whole fucking middle of the map.
That
Uh,
gave me like very, very bad like stress throwback memories to Blair Witch when they kicked the map into the lake or into the river, and I was just like, no. I'm like, Dean, this is some dumb bitch level shit right now, but I'm not gonna give you the award quite yet. But also, come on. But the whole point of doing the Duke of Edinburgh award is to get high the whole time. So
that's what
he
they
was
tell us,
doing
and I
what
believe
he
them.
had to.
I mean, isn't that the whole point of just existing? Question
Being
mark.
in the woods with your friends is nothing if you don't get high, except I don't want to do that because it's scary.
That sounds so
Listen,
scary. No.
I don't like being in the woods at all. You know how I feel about the woods.
Yeah.
I just would like to be high all the time.
I think the Scottish Highlands would be okay because, like, I mean, as we saw in this movie, sure, maybe there are crazy rich people out there hunting you, but at least you can kind of see them coming from a long way off, you know? Like
That's
in the
true.
woods, things can hide really easily. And we also see that in this movie because they try to hide in the woods at one point only to realize the woods have been cut down. So you really can see
Like,
everything
these woods
everywhere at
suck.
all times. I think if I had to get high with my friends in the wilderness, and why did I say had to? Because what a privilege. But the Scottish Highlands, I feel like would be a good locale to do so. Presumably, we were not being hunted. You know what I mean?
I
But
will say
trip
though,
us to the Scottish Highlands getting high.
will we instead of doing exploding hash,
Uh-huh.
will we eat psychedelic rabbit shit with the local farmers?
I am very afraid of doing any drugs that are not legal within my area, but do as the Highlanders do. And so if you give us
That's
$100,000
culture.
on Patreon, you can come to the Highlands and eat rabbit with us. You know what I mean?
You make us a Patreon for us
Yeah, we
because
don't
we
have one
haven't
yet.
done that yet.
If you set it up and then put in $100,000, let's go get high in the Highlands.
Yeah. They
Oh
call
my
it
god,
the
high in the Highlands!
That's the name of the $100,000 tier.
Wow. That would be so fucking fun. Bucket list. It's happening. It's going down.
Anyway,
So,
that kind of loops us back to, so he has this projectile, he has more of the map as like a wick basically. And by the way, wicks, like candles, now we know how candles work. We're very smart. So just keep that in mind. He puts the exploding hash on the CD and then he like frisbees it into the existing campfire and it explodes and it puts Eddie Izzard's leg on fire. And that comes back around when the boys finally get to their first campsite. And who is there waiting for them with the burned leg but Mr. Carlisle?
Dun dun dun!
And I mean, there's such a good sequence during this scene where Dean has accidentally. So basically, they explode the Duke for a second and he runs away. And they're like, great, this is our time to get out of there. But Dean's like, no, I need to go back and get the hash. That was supposed to last me months. And so he's
He
like,
paid 50 quid for it. He has to go back.
so he's risking his life, like eating pieces of things on the ground, and he ends up eating a piece of the psychedelic rabbit shit. So he's high out of his ever loving mind, and he's staring at Mr. Carlisle, and Mr. Carlisle is just saying several words. Like he's saying some things about making a fire, and Dean does this like beautiful mind thing, and he's like he says the word cereal about like eating cereal, and he like confuses and thinks that Mr. Carlisle is saying, I am a serial killer. And like that's grounds for murder right there. That's a
Honestly,
confession.
right there, yeah, obviously murder. It's really the only choice.
Yeah, no, 100%. He said the word cereal, so he's definitely a killer.
And there was
It
also
makes sense.
there's a previous conversation before they spotted Mr. Carlisle. They had Duncan on another boy's shoulders, don't remember who, but they were trying to get reception on their phone so they could call the police. And they had another great conversation that I did transcribe and I will share with you now, which is he calls them and he's like, police, we're being chased by a psycho pedophile with a gun. And Ian is like, whoa, 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 whoa. You can't go calling him that. And he says, what? And he says, we don't know if he's a pedophile. And they say everyone old and famous is a pedo, which honestly, in the light of the last few years, like fair enough. And
yeah,
then
that one hit hard.
I know, I was like, oh, I did write it down in my quote section in addition to this transcribed conversation because I was like, that hits. But so Ian also says, well, you're 16, so it'd actually be fine. And Duncan is like, I'd be fine. And Ian is like, you just can't call him a pedophile. He says pedophile. They say pedophile, which is so funny to me. And it's not even trying to be funny. It's just adorable. But then Duncan is like, oh, hello. Sorry. Yes, that's right. We're being chased by a psycho with a gun, but we're still trying to figure out if he fancies us. So cute and adorable.
The script for this movie is absolutely just like A star, 10 out of 10, 100. So good.
Poppin'. It slaps. Anyway, so they think Mr. Carlisle Dean thinks he's literally confessed to them to being a serial killer. They also think if he's the Duke, then maybe he fancies them and is a pedophile. So you can see they've got grounds to murder. I think it's clearly laid out, but they do a little huddle about it, and they're prepared to take a vote. Before they can finish the vote, Duncan is like, this has been settled. I'll take care of this. Because he's the action of the group. He's the brains and also he's like the gut instinct. You know what I mean? So he just like balls to the wall, hops in the van, and like runs Mr. Carlisle over, no bones about it. He's like taken care of, like checked off on the to-do list. We're good.
Which is just absolutely horrifying. And then leads to one of the funniest parts of the movie for me, just because I really didn't see it coming. They like drive the van up to the top of this cliff, trying to like make it seem like Mr. Carlisle like drove himself off the cliff on purpose. Duncan literally is pulling on Mr. Carlisle's mouth to make him look sad. Which is, I'm like, dude, get your fingerprints off of his fucking face. And so then they're at the top of the cliff and they're like, all right. So they put the car in neutral and it just tips and goes back down the road. Doesn't fall off the cliff, just rolls peacefully down the road. And then we get an incredible quote from Duncan, I think. And he's like, oh no, this is an island. It'll fall off a cliff eventually.
Which is so funny.
I died when he said that. Like, that was literal tears. It was so funny.
Oh my god, it's so fucking good. Yeah, so like what happens from there? From there they start trekking again after committing murder. And then almost immediately find out that the Duke is definitely someone different than Mr. Carlisle because he's still out in the freaking Highlands hunting them. And
and we meet the Duchess this time. Which, okay, I had a question. If he's supposed to be the Duke of Edinburgh, it would be the Queen. She should have been the Queen.
I think that is heavily implied with her family sword, and she's got her little bonnet, like the way that the Queen always wears. I think they were definitely, and then there was like another flash of newspapers with quotes, I think from the Queen. Didn't catch any of them, moved too fast. But basically about how like, okay, yeah, things in the UK can occasionally be rough from like a class standpoint and like a crime standpoint, which further like belayed the whole we need to call the herd thing.
Ugh. I love the Duchess because she's so extra.
Mm-hmm.
She does a lot of like wailing, like just to be
She does.
spooky, and also when she's upset, and that's something that I would like to incorporate into my own life. And so it's inspirational to me. Like
She
a
also
good like banshee scream can be very cathartic.
She also rides up on a horse.
Yes.
Previously, the Duke had been on foot, so clearly now we see a strong woman in charge. And she's like, first of all, literally, why would we walk anywhere when we can ride horses? And she's right, and she should say it. And it just like introduces a whole other level of like beautiful fanciness to this miscreant hunt, and that's important to me as well.
I like the way you phrased that. It was
Thank
very
you.
nice.
I did too.
That was beautiful. But yeah, this is where things start to like break down for the squad, because you know shit's just been absolutely terrible nonstop since they started their trek. And so they're just running and running and running and running and running away from the Duke and the Duchess, and then young poor baby homeschooled Ian just absolutely wrecks it and twists his ankle and falls, and everybody just leaves him. They just dip. They like, we don't care about you, except for Duncan, who again is our sweet sweet boy who we love, and he's like, don't worry, I got you, Ian. Ian's like, oh, he's gonna save me. No, he just covers him in tree branches and mud. He's like, camouflage. Actually,
Honestly,
not a bad idea.
Yeah, it seemed to work kind of well. We saw it went incredible for Peeta Mellark in the Hunger Games. You know what I mean? Like it can be
100%.
done. We got like a weird time shift where I don't know how much time was supposed to have passed, but Ian was safe until it got dark, and it seemed like it had been a while. You know what I mean? So like things were happening. Not a bad idea, but it also that gave us one of my favorite lines, which is DJ Beetroot says, "I'm sorry, Ian, I can't die. I'm the future of hip hop." And Isaac, once more, he's right, and he should say it.
Yes.
I mean, after that, like I don't want to go through the movie scene by scene, but that's also when there's more discord in the friend group. Oh no. But that gives us DJ Beetroot at the farm. He met the farmer earlier. He gave him his cocktail CD. Turns out all the farmers fucking love it. They ate that shit up. Now they're all ready to eat some rabbit poop and see a concert. And they're like, DJ Beetroot,
actual shit.
This is my favorite scene in the entire movie. It's so funny. I love. He's like, yes, I have found my people, the farmers of the Highlands. They appreciate my artwork.
Yes, because this whole time he's been like, I'm a tough kid on the streets, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to blow up, all these things. But, I mean, like, let's be real. We know how it works. We can objectively, Ian thinks they're very cool kids and that they're, like, bad boys or whatever. We look at this movie and we know that we love them, but they are tiny baby losers. Just absolute big dweebs, big dark energy. Clearly, as we know, William de Beauvoir or whatever his name is, like there's a whole confrontation where he's like, I'm from the mean streets or whatever, and Dina's like, okay, literally I've seen a picture of your house and it's covered in ivy, and in the picture you were standing in front of it with golf clubs, so like let's just be honest about what's going on here for 1 second, which is so sweet because it shows me that Dean and Duncan know the truth, but they've indulged DJ B for so long because they're like, if this is who you are, also we love you and we want to enable you to like chase your dreams, but also let's for 1 second of our lives we can be realistic and be like, please stop pretending, like, because he's like, we're gonna go in this shed, and they're like, we're literally being chased by spooky people, why would we go in a spooky shed? Think for 1 second. And he's like, no, we would go in there, guns blazing. And he puts his little fingers up like finger guns, and he's like, pew, pew, pew. And they're like, you're gonna point at them. Because they don't actually have any guns.
Weapons.
Like, weapons.
Yes, but
a well-sharp fork.
he's
A
that man
well-sharp fork.
ready. And he is ready, but he doesn't need to be, because like this is the fan base he's been waiting for, and they've all heard Cocktails, and they're all ready to put DJ Beetroot on the stage.
This scene,
While taking psychedelic rabbit shit.
Yes.
if that beautiful Santa Claus man told me to eat rabbit shit and have a psychedelic trip with him, I would do it. I
If he
trust
told me
him.
to
I
do
look at him and I
anything,
trust
I
him.
would do it. Anything.
100%. He is Santa to me, and probably
I
in a
trust
film.
that man with my life.
I
trust
trust
him
that man
more
with
than
any of
anything.
our lives, not just mine. I would risk your life for him.
I would lay down your life to him. I would sacrifice you to him. But this leads to the actual best rap that is in this movie. And should I read the whole thing or just tell me when to stop because it's really long?
It is really long, and when I transcribed it, I like didn't include some of the repeating lines, like as a chorus basically, and I like skipped. There's a lot of dialogue in between as well, so like
Yeah.
this will just give you the idea. But I do think, honestly, I mean, how much time do we have left? Because we've got plenty of time based on our recent episodes. They've been going so long. First of all, I'm so sorry, but second of all, if we're going to
You're
dedicate
welcome.
time to anything, it should be reading the entirety of this rap.
Okay, I will read the entire thing for you right now
Thank you.
because it is gorgeous.
Monica, I need you to rap the entire
Monica,
thing.
will
I
you rap this
can't.
rap for us?
No, I cannot because every time I have tried, because I tried to rap this before the pod started, and I got it. I got the timing wrong every single time. So we're just gonna do a dramatic reading.
Spoken word.
DJ
Spoken word. I
Beetroot.
love it. I'll do some snaps,
thank you.
to show you my support, like I'm at a poetry slam.
Okay, it'll be exactly like that. DJ Beetroot in the fucking house. I got something new for you, all right? A lot of shit's been going down in the Highlands, and I'm about to tell you about it. Mr. Farmer hit that track. This is just the hype up, okay? Y'all ready? Okay. DJ Beetroot, fresh out the box. This flawed awards cause discord. Oh, it's already amazing. The Duke's sanity is a boat unmoored. The bored and ignored youth get mauled. God save the queen. What about us, Lord? 4 boys, 3 ugly and Caucasian, 1 a sexy, well-hung Asian, none of them really of hiking persuasion, dumbstruck in a royal liaison. Oh, I guess that's how you rhyme it. 1 chance, 2 chance, 3 chance, 4. Survive them all, but how many more? When I say get, you say duked. Get duked. Get
Dude.
Dude!
Oh my god. Oh, okay. I don't know this one as well, so this is gonna be hard. This horror flare, don't stare Freddy.
Don't star Freddy. Sorry, that's my typo. That's my fault.
Met your nightmare on the Duke of Eddie. Oh, this is so good. Never seen a mask like this on our street. The Duke's rubber cast haunts our dreams. Loco Duke on the yellow shit road. Toto, we ain't in Glasgow though. Tin Van search for a cliff or stiff spin round. The scarecrows stormed off in a tiff, lost in the hills. But we've got a choice, barely no skills, but we've got a voice. Together we rise. That we met, what?
Not a
That
fluke.
we,
Like
that
it's
we
not
met's
a fluke
not
that
a,
we met.
oh, that we met's not a fluke. Element of surprise hunts over, dear Duke. When I say get, you say duped. Get,
Duked.
get.
Duked.
Dude!
Duchess can't touch us. Duke's got duped.
Oh.
Duchess can't touch us. Wow. Maybe I can be DJ Beetroot's hype woman. Maybe he'll let me just like be the person that like yells things back at him. You know?
What is it called when you're a slut for the band? Groupies. We'll be groupies.
A groupie.
Yeah.
100%. I'm fully planning on being a groupie for this man for the rest of his career. Like this actor, he's incredible.
First, before we go full groupie, even if Ian says 16 is okay, not for me. But
True.
but you know, DJ Beetroot is laying these hot rhymes. I just feel like,
The sick beat.
could I resist falling in love? You know what I mean?
No, you can't. You can't, and that's okay. Oh man, I'm trying to find out how old that actor is, and it's not on the internet. So
That's not the.
disappointing.
I mean, he's very sweet and cute. Good for him. That's not the appeal for me. This is like, you know how you have a crush on someone because they're so talented.
Uh-huh.
That's what this is about.
Yeah, no, I feel that 100%. It's like you look at him and you're like, okay, he's cute, but then he opens his mouth and you're like, you are the best person
He
that
let the
exists.
rap fly, and you're like, wow, iconic king. Marry you in a second. Anything you want, sweet baby. Would die for you. Would sacrifice Monica and Sydney for you.
Yes.
Once again, like, this movie's about friendship. Are we trying to kill all of our friends during the course of this podcast? Maybe. I don't know. But, like, there's just a lot that I would give. You know what I mean? There's a lot that I would
100%.
sacrifice here. But we don't need to, because what's important about this scene, in addition to having the best rap in the history of existence, is that it like really changes DJ Beetroot's perspective. You know, before this
Mhm.
scene, he left Ian behind because he was like, I'm the future of hip hop. I must survive. What would the genre be without me? And then after this scene, he's like, I'm all about community now, because he understands what it is to get high in the Highlands with a bunch of farmers and feel
100%.
that joy, that experience of being together in this moment. And he's like, how could I give this up for anything? Now it's being the
Exactly.
boys for life.
100%. This is where he really gets that character development and he becomes a boy who thinks about not just himself, and we are happy about that. Also, very important part and maybe metaphor or like a visual depiction of this change. He switches sweaters with Mr. Santa Claus the farmer, and he puts on like the cable knit sweater and some wellies, and I was just like, God, this is perfect. That he's wearing a cable knit sweater for the rest of it, and that's just something that's very important to me.
Impeccable.
That sweater is so good too. I was like, where can I find a sweater like this? I was immediately online shopping
I
after
just-
watching
I
I
this
just
movie.
want a sweater.
I bought one
like
for Adam
that.
for Christmas.
I want a farmer in the Highlands to give me a sweater that I can cherish for the rest of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then it's imbued with his magic and a little bit of psychedelic rabbit shit.
The memory
a
of
lot.
that experience, you know what I mean? Where I touch the, I don't need to wear the sweater, but I keep it like folded up in a box, and I revisit it every now and then, and just feeling like the texture of the knitwear between my fingers transport me back to that one magical night in the Highlands with the farmer and the rabbit shit and an incredible musical performance, you know?
Yeah.
That's the kind of
That-
moment you want to have for the rest of your life, and you want to protect it, and you want to revisit it, and there's nothing quite like it. And that's what I want. So I have to find a way to probably just be in this movie. But
Maybe they'll do a remake.
maybe I'll write a fan fiction with a self insert. Who can say? Like, maybe Kelsey's in this movie. We don't
100%.
know. We don't know where
Also-
things could go. There's a lot of room for a create your own experience here, in my opinion.
And also, if you can't find a beautiful Santa Claus like farmer in the Scottish Highlands to give you his sweaters, you can go to woolovers.com and purchase a cable knit sweater there.
Sure, if you want to buy an experience instead of making one.
Chelsea, I'm trying to get us a sponsor from woolovers.com. That would be
You
so
have a
epic.
more entrepreneurial mind than I do, and I love that about you. So sexy.
Thank you. I am an entrepreneur. But yeah, this is like the catalyst for the whole group where they really start to realize that like each other and banding together is what's important. And there's this like an epic series of events that happens. But like before that, I will say that Duncan again is the most prepared out of all of them, maybe more prepared than Ian, because he brought 15 bags of soup and 3 different types of hot chocolate. on this trip.
They are all powdered. He does not have any water. But he doesn't seem to need
did.
it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the whole sequence where like they go into a cave to hide, Dean and Duncan, genius idea from Duncan, and they're just
Everyone knows you
eating
go
the
in a cave in
dust.
the Highlands.
Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. Except for Dean, apparently, fool. But they're just eating the dust. They're just eating the flavor packets for like an undisclosed period of time. And like I was watching this movie cured my hangover this morning and it worked, but that part made my hangover come back and I almost died. But it quickly went away again. But like that moment, like the idea of that dry mouth.
They
I can't
literally
imagine
off
worse
the
things.
desk, so I get it.
I for a while was like, where did they find all of this cocaine? Oh wait, no, it's just the powdered soup. I was very confused at first.
Sydney, were you paying attention the first time you watched this?
Yeah, I mean,
The first time, not really. The second time, I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense.
but you're not far off because there are, and I mean, again, are the police in this movie that effective? No, it's a horror movie, so they're never going to be.
No, of course.
But they also see the powder on the ground and they're like, it's heroin cut with something, maybe chicken. So they're on the same wavelength here, which means you could be an investigator. Who knows, Sydney?
Wow, you could be a
Wow.
But just one funny thing about them eating the powder dry is like when Duncan whips out all of these powders, Dean is like, okay, but do you have any water? And the reason they don't have water, because we saw them filling up their bottles at a stream earlier, is because the Duke came upon them and their plan, they were like, get bottled. And they threw all of their bottles at him. And saying get bottled and throwing the bottles is honestly like the funniest thing to me. And it like, I think
I
maybe
totally missed that.
get bottled was, I like didn't fully appreciate it. I thought get bottled was funny, but I didn't like realize what was happening. And then when I went back to watch my favorite parts and transcribe all of the good conversations, and I found get bottled as they take their water bottles from the stream and throw them completely ineffectively, by the way, just like beautiful.
Also, I feel like Get Bottled was like the workshop phase for Get Duked. Like that was like they were like, we're gonna try out a few things, and then the bottling didn't actually work like verbally or literally, so they threw it out.
What are you talking about? And how dare you?
Get Duked is better. Sorry, it just is
Get Duked
punchier.
is better, but Get Bottled is iconic, but Get Duked is just like on a whole other level, you know?
Yeah, totally.
But that doesn't make Get Bottled bad.
Okay, I'm sorry. I take it back.
Apology
Get Duked
accepted.
is better. Oh man. Okay, so another thing that's I really love about this is like the boys all start to realize that they need to be there for Ian, who they've left for dead. And so they hear him screaming because like he's basically been found by the Duke and the Duchess and he's trying to hide and he's doing a very terrible job and he's trying to enter a series of tunnels in the ground, but he just is hacking at hacking at this lock for fucking like 20 minutes. He finally gets it open and it's not even connected to the ground. Like this hatch is just like
picked it up the whole time.
I know. Oh, it's so sad. But when the boys, Dean and Duncan, like start running over to find Ian and save him, they're absolutely like painted in this white dust, and the freaking idiot cops see them and think that they're zombies.
Okay, yes, there's this very funny gag at the police station where they've got like their list of threat priorities on the board, and at the top is, and we've touched on this a little bit earlier, but there's like a bread thief plot line going on where someone is stealing the bread in the Highlands, and it's
All
like,
of it.
horrible. Can you imagine? No bread, my nightmare.
No children can have a baguette.
Yes, no babies have ever even seen a baguette. So you can imagine, like, of course that's threat priority level number 1, but then they get this call about a pedophile, and then they also are like, there's a terrorist at play because we found this bomb, and as the movie is going on, they keep, like, adding things to the board where it ends up saying, like, let me find it. Oh, pedophile, terrorist, urban gang, riot, and then they're about to add zombie to the list because they like see the boys all covered in dust. It's so
I love that they have a card that says zombie,
They've
like
got it
already
all
named.
prepared. Look, pedophile, terrorist, urban gang, riot. Sure. Again, somebody says at one point nothing ever happens in the Highlands, so like already impressive. They've got those stacked, but that they've got zombie like locked and loaded, ready to go. These police officers not very good at their jobs, but they are prepared.
They have their minds are open to the world, you know? Like they're not going to be like that's impossible. They're like anything could happen in the Highlands.
Also, a really funny gag with them earlier. Once these, like, okay, I didn't understand this until I was rewatching again, but the reason that one of the lady cop is like, she's a sergeant, I guess. Excuse me, lady cop. So rude. That the sergeant is like so passionate about chasing this down is because nothing ever happens in the Highlands other than the bread thief. It's like if they don't solve the bread thief case, then their precinct could be shut down. And she's like, and this is an even larger case than the bread thief because it's a pedophile terrorist urban gang riot zombie. So she's really being like, if we save this one, like, oh, can you imagine? But so she and her partner, whose name I forget and don't care about.
Hamish.
Hamish.
Thank you.
Hamish was hot. I will say that. He had pretty eyes, but he was small and he was stupid. But he was very pretty for me. That's all I have to say. Continue.
He was hot and dumb.
Himbo.
Yes, but they're in the car at one point arguing about how like they really need to pay attention. They need to keep an eye out. And as they're talking about this, you see the van from earlier rolling down the cliff. It like rolls down in the background and it just like steamrolls over a sheep.
Blows it up. Obliterates that bad boy.
And it just like rolls by in the background. They have absolutely no like awareness of their surroundings enough to pay attention to it. Like the van is like a rolling gag to a degree, and it also comes around in the most perfect way. But we're talking about the police right now, and they're just like so funny. They have so many funny moments because also with the bread thief thing, there's a moment where as the police officer is about to add zombie to the board, he's like the only one who stayed. PC Dougie, he stayed behind at the station to like man the station, and he had gone to have a sandwich earlier in the night, only to discover that even the bread from the locked police station bread box had been stolen. Truly a tragedy, truly a feat of whoever is doing this bread thievery. He has to eat his sandwich as a lettuce wrap, and that's when he calls in the superintendent to be like, stop chasing zombies. Please focus on the bread thief. This is the crime of the century. And she's right, and she should say it. And that gives us the whole babies have never seen a baguette again, iconic. But there's just like so many levels. I will say there was one moment that disappointed me, which is, again, they were so willing to believe that Dean and Duncan covered in chicken soup powder were zombies. And then at the end, once, should I just say it? We're saying all the spoilers, so
Yeah,
like, what am I holding back for? But
we're gonna be there in like 5 seconds anyway.
Yeah. So once it becomes kind of like an opposite chase where all the boys are chasing the Duke and Duchess because now they have a gun and a sword. And then it turns out there's like a whole crew of Dukes and Duchesses and royalty of some kind, but they get squished because the van from earlier comes out of nowhere to roll off a cliff and onto them, squishing them. But then it turns out Mr. Carlisle is still alive and they are trying to like resuscitate him, so they poured the powdered chicken all over him. I thought
also Duncan stabs him with the fork to wake him up.
Yes. Not great. But so there's this like also they've killed all of the people hunting them, but now it's like they did try to murder Mr. Carlisle, and Mr. Carlisle is going to tell the police that they tried to murder him. That could be troublesome. You can imagine. I thought it was going to be solved because he's like covered in blood and has a fork in him and is covered in powder. I thought the police were going to think he was a zombie and shoot him. And then that didn't happen. And I was like, no zombie?
Well,
no zombie?
I mean,
that was the only part.
the cops aren't that smart, I don't think, to
They didn't
put
even
all of that
recognize
together.
Duncan, like, when he made the exact same face as the picture that they have of him being a terrorist or whatever. So, like, they're so stupid.
That's true.
They've
There is
got very
another
short
line where they
attention
seem to have like deconstructed the zombie myth, because when they come upon these young four lads and Mr. Carlisle, so earlier when they discovered the hip hop CD that led them to their urban gang conclusion, here's the line. They're like, drugs and hip hop, we're dealing with an urban gang. And PC Hamish says, what, a London gang? I've done a training course on this stuff. Dougie, come in, Dougie. We're on the lookout for 15 to 20 young black males in hooded tops, which is just like once more
Oh.
the racial jokes in this movie unparalleled. And that comes back in the end when they come across these four boys who are like so obviously the people that they're looking for. But what they say instead is, sorry to interrupt, but have you seen about 50 young males in hooded tops wearing satanic animal skulls covered in heroin who look a bit undead pass through here? And then Pete Hamish says, because watch out, they're all pedophiles.
That's so good.
Oh, it's so funny.
So okay, it's hilarious, and I love that line, and I love that interaction. But they've clearly figured out who they thought were zombies are just gang members with animal skulls covered in heroin who look a bit undead but are not actually
Yeah,
undead.
probably just haven't gotten a lot of sleep because they've been doing all these misdeeds and
Yeah,
wreaking havoc.
they've been busy being terrorists and leading riots, and like they're part of
Yeah.
an urban gang. You know what I mean? So
Exhausting work.
they've got a lot on their plate.
Yeah. Few eye bags, it makes sense. Oh my god. But yeah, I mean, the final like chapter of this movie is so fun. Like basically once the boys come back together and save Ian with the help of the entire farm side gang, which is all the farmers, which is incredible. They even have like a little symbol.
And then he's like, if you just throw this up in the wild, like Farmside will know somehow and come running. Like you just make your hand sign wherever you are, and like Farmside is ready.
They're
would
very attuned.
beautiful.
The rabbit poop makes you very, very hyper aware, you know? So it makes
Sure.
sense. But basically, after that, they've kind of got the Duke and the Duchess on the run, and they decide like the only way for them to like clear their names and justify why they fucking killed Mr. Carlisle is to show that there actually was someone trying to kill them. So like I just love the whole sequence where they're trying to hunt down the Duke and Duchess, because all of a sudden Dean, Duncan, and DJ Beetroot are fucking incredible orienteers.
They've learned so much. They've come so far.
I know. Like there's one point where I think it's Dean. He like looks out and he's like, and if you look at the grass around that boulder over there, it seems like it's a bog. So that's gonna slow them down. I'm just like, God, this is incredible. As someone who has fallen into a peat bog before, though, in the Scottish Isles, like you can't usually. It's hard to tell immediately that you're gonna be in a bog, and then all of a sudden you step in the bog and you fall and your butt hits the bog and you have a bog butt, and that is not what you want. And it's happened to me. It could happen to you.
Bog butt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't live that name down for the rest of the trip.
But so that just goes to show they're really good at orienteering, because Ian has been like tracking their progress this whole time. Basically, he's got his little laminated check sheet for the Duke of Edinburgh Award.
Incredible.
How did I do?
Really good. Really good. It sounded really natural.
Anyway, the 3 items on the list are teamwork, orienteering, which you shouldn't say. It's so rude to use the O word, and foraging. And so he's been crossing off teamwork every now and then having to go back and erase it every time shit hits the fan with all of them. He's been trying 1,000,000 times to be like, are we working together? No.
No.
Gets to that moment and he's like, check orienteering. And then when they're ready to like confront them, DJ Beetroot is like, here, eat all of these rabbit pellets. We're all gonna get super high. And they're like, check foraging.
Yeah, that's the reason that Ian decides to do the drugs. He's like, he wasn't gonna do. Everyone's like, no, we're not gonna fucking do this. And Ian's like, no, we gotta check off foraging, and he eats them all. And I'm like, he's so committed to getting his laminated certificate.
I mean,
Listen, he knows what's up.
it's hard to get into college these days. You know, you've got to really stand out.
Yeah.
This movie is just like so funny and wonderful and lovely, but also like in addition to being funny, there are also moments where it like kind of has something to say, which I thought was really well done. Not just because there was an emotional conversation where Ian is like, you're just like every other cool kid I've ever met, where you just want to leave me behind and you think I'm a dweeb, and then Dean has to be like, Ian, sweet prince, my baby, I love you, I hold you in my heart. Have you met us? Clearly we are not cool. Everybody
Self-aware.
Yes. What's the actual line? Because I did think it was sweet and I did write it all down and I was like, let me find it. Oh, Ian says, I thought you were different, but you're not. You're just more cool kids that treat me like a loser, like everyone else. And Dean says, Ian, why do you think us three are such good mates? I mean, we're losers at school. No one talks to us, but you seem pretty cool. Like you haven't slagged us off or anything. Come on, you're part of the gang. That's why we came back. My little heart. But also then...
Oh, that was so nice.
Ian is also a little bit... Everybody shares rules. There's a lot of overlap here. Like it's a good collaborative group. But so while Dean is the heart, he's also the one talking to the Duke and Duchess who like delivers a whole monologue on like class awareness and like solidarity and how rich people are like ruining the world basically for their own means and so that they can further their wealthy lifestyles. And like even when they've destroyed the planet, they'll just be living on colonies on Mars being like it's the poor people's fault. And just a wonderful, very good little moment in this, because like anytime there's a purge movie, you know it's gonna like have class shit in it, and I think it's just handled really well here where it's not over the top, but it is like, let's not pretend that there aren't dynamics at play here.
And we get this line where at the end of his beautiful monologue, he says, meanwhile, we'll be on Earth as mutants living in bunkers, explaining to our manky fucking three-eyed kids that you Tweety business CEO fucking Greek bastards did to us.
Beautiful. So well, like, woven into the fabric of the movie in a way that totally made sense and was not, like, out of tone with the rest of the film.
No, it was so good. It was really, really, really good. And I also like with Dean too, he's kind of like invigorated by this whole thing. Where like after they like absolutely murk the Duke and Duchess, not this, they don't really do it. The van does it. You know, they set the van in motion at the beginning of the film, and so they did
all a Duncan plan. This is Duncan thinking long term. He said 100%. This is an island, there's cliffs everywhere, eventually it will go off a cliff. Do you know what? It did. So thank you, Duncan.
Yes.
And boy, was it worth the wait.
Oh god, that squish.
The way it came absolutely out of nowhere, flawless, beautiful, but also the way they had tied it in earlier where we saw it in the background of that one police officer scene earlier, like it needed that to be like, yes, the van is still rolling. It totally paid off. I thought it was so beautiful.
It was so good. Like they tie up all the ends into this beautiful, intricate bow. It's I love this movie so much. And I mean, I also love the part just before that. I mean, it's super fucked up, but like just the energy of like the whole group of other dukes and duchesses show up as like backup for the original Duke and Duchess, and they're all just like absolute douchebags. They make freaking Duncan take a Polaroid picture of them. That's why they're all grouped together like that, because they were literally just taking a photo. And Duncan does it. He's such a sweetie. He takes the picture.
Okay, just one more thing before we get into our regular segments, and that's that I would like to read the whole bread thief speech that the superintendent gives because I think it is so beautiful.
Oh, it's so good.
Here it goes. Enough letting your imagination run wild when you're sitting on the crime of the decade. Half of the Highlands bread's gone missing. I've not had a ciabatta in weeks. Granary, seeded batch. She says pita, not pita. Organic raisin and cashew bloomer. Gone. There's babies out there who've never even seen a baguette. My neighbor, who, by the way, fought in the war, had to spread ham on a dog biscuit yesterday. All the ducks are miserable. They're getting really vicious. Think about it. No toast means no butter. All the farmers have gone mental. It's a full-scale disaster. So stop daydreaming. Stop playing TV cops. Nothing ever happens in the Highlands. This is as big as it'll get ever for you. Accept that or hand in your badges right now.
A masterclass in
Chills.
acting. from
Chills.
Sita.
Chills.
Thank you.
That was really impassioned. Also, I learned about a lot of different types of bread from that. I've never heard of a cashew bloomer, and I hate cashews, so I won't be trying it. But I like to know that it exists. That's fun for me.
What's also fun is
Oh,
that
I
when you
love
discover
cashews.
all of the breads in the back of Mr.
Oh
Carlisle's
my god!
truck. They say even more names of breads where they're like, I don't remember any other than pain au chocolat, and I was like,
Yes.
he's got chocolate croissants in there, like delicious. And also,
Also, like,
how dare you rob the Highlands of a chocolate croissant? Because it is one of God's gifts to us.
okay, but also, like, I totally understand
Hoarding all
Mr. Carlisle's motivation. Like, when I saw those just absolute duffel bags filled to the brim with bread, my heart sped up, and I was like, I want to dive into those duffel bags right now
Mhm.
and live in there.
Yes.
And it sounded really nice. Like, I really related to dummy himbo Hamish. I called him himbo as if it was his name. It's pretty much the same name.
He is
Like,
a himbo.
he's a himbo, but he sees all this bread and he just absolutely goes batshit insane and like just goes like face first into a huge seeded loaf.
It's one
And
of the
like,
cashew bloomer.
yeah, I think it's a cashew bloomer, and he goes absolutely wild for it and cannot be pulled away. Like, he's like the zombie and the bread is like the brains, and he won't stop.
Can we blame him?
No,
Absolutely
we
not.
can't. Very relatable. The only time I liked him, besides when I looked into his dreamy blue eyes.
Okay, segment time.
Yes. I have a lot of thoughts. Okay, what do we want to do first? Let's do could it be gayer? And obviously it could be gayer.
There's a lot of room to be gayer. I liked it as it is. I don't know that I would make it gayer within the context of this film, although if you've got ideas, I'd love to hear them. But I will say, if you ask me to write fan fiction about two characters in this movie falling in love, absolutely no hesitation, it's Ian and Duncan.
Ian
Yes.
and Duncan. Okay, I would like that better. There was one moment where like when Dean and Ian are talking about how Dean is actually a loser, blah 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 blah. They have a meaningful look shared between them, and I was like, I could see this happening too. But I do like Duncan best for that scenario because I feel like it'd be more fun. I just would like to write like a AU fan fiction or commission you to write an AU fan fiction
Mhm.
where like the whole story is that like Ian is this like little homeschooled baby who doesn't know anything, and then he comes to this group and then he falls in love with one of the boys, and then they have an exciting romp in the Scottish Highlands, and I would read that book.
It's got to
I
be
would read it.
Duncan who covered him in camouflage in order to save his life. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, Dean
And gives him a passionate kiss that says, I'll be back for you, baby, and then leaves.
Oh my god, written right there. I love it. Beautiful, stunning.
Woo.
Maybe I do want to be
Perfect.
gay. Maybe I am on board fully, and it doesn't need to be a fan fiction. Maybe that should have existed within the movie.
I feel like there's room for it. Like Duncan needed a little more back plot. He did he's like obviously the brains, but he could have had something more emotional go down with him, and it could have been a love connection with Ian. So
Wow.
I'll have to
Powerful.
call up Ninian. Okay. Any other thoughts about could it be Gare, or do we move on to Mr. Lillard himself?
I'm ready for Mr. Lillard, I think. Although I do want to talk about some other parts of the cast first. 'Cause
Yeah.
this is a general cast subject. It just like has a Matthew Lillard focus. You know what I mean?
I feel that.
In I believe the episode where we talked about The Witch, we laid out our rules for anything that comes out of the UK, which is that it's got to have I guess not, The Witch wasn't a UK movie, but anyway, it's got to have someone from either Harry Potter or Game of Thrones in it. And at first I was like, does this movie meet these rules? Like there was one point where I was starting to think about it. I was like, okay, there's a lot of like UK actors in here. Do we have any overlap? I wasn't sure. And then we met the police officers, and the police Sergeant Morag, I think is her name. I don't know, just the lady. She stood out to me, and I couldn't place her at first. And I was like, maybe it's Petunia Dursley. Like maybe we've got at least one Harry Potter actress here. But then I realized I'm a stupid, beautiful idiot. So stunning, so dumb. This is literally Kate Dickie, who was in The Witch that we watched like
Literally the
2
mom.
or 3 movies ago. And she just
The chameleon. She looks way different in this.
looks way
Those
different.
front
The
things,
acting was way
man,
different.
throw you off.
Because her acting in The Witch was like very similar to her Game of Thrones role, which is where this comes in. As
There was even the nipple stuff.
yeah, as Lissa Tully, that was like very much like a same vibe kind of thing, even with like the breastfeeding references. And this is like something totally new from her, which was really fun to see for me. But also James Cosmo, who plays the farmer, is also from Game of Thrones, where he played Jeor Mormont at the Wall, who's like Jon Snow's mentor, basically. And he was Father Christmas in Chronicles of Narnia. So superstar all around, clearly.
Incredible, man. Also, this is not the cast per se, but it essentially is the cast for me. This movie was produced in part by Tobey Maguire. Yes, that is Spider-Man himself.
Wow.
And something just super fun, because this in and of itself is a Harry Potter reference. The actor who plays Ian, his real name is Samuel Bottomley, which is just like that feels like a Harry Potter character to me. But
Well,
anyway, there's
have a long bottom.
yeah, no, exactly. But I read this amazing article about this movie on NME, and you guys should read it if you haven't. It was super fun. Had a bunch of interview questions with all the boys who are this tight in real life. Yeah, I have more about that too. But Bottomley or Ian said, I couldn't believe it. It was Spider-Man with an umbrella, because Tobey Maguire like came to set to watch them one day, and he just looks up and it's Tobey Maguire. Also, they were like absolute miscreants at South by Southwest with this for this movie. They were like running around. South by's in Austin, right?
Yeah.
Running around Austin with like DJ Beetroot stickers like from the movie,
That's
sticking it on everything.
Our campaign for DJ Beetroot, so important.
Yeah, and they also, I mean, this was fun back when this happened, but less fun now because we hate him and he's canceled. But they did run and find Shia LaBeouf in the street and cover Shia LaBeouf himself with stickers. And they stuck one to his head, which is something that I liked. And they also had a very horrible, cringy experience with Elijah Wood, who loved the movie. And one of the actors went up to him and introduced himself, and he's like, oh yes, and this is, and goes to introduce Ian, whose name is Sam, and he's like, and this is Samwise, and introduced Sam to Elijah Wood as Samwise, and Elijah was like, oh, like it did not land apparently. And I was like, oh, this is a disaster.
Elijah Wood is such a delightful weirdo, and I'm so glad that he loved this movie, and that really sits right in my heart.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's Oh, I can't remember the name of it right now. Something Come to Daddy is a horror film with that starred Elijah Wood that came out like 2 years ago, and we gotta cover it on the pod one day because it's absolutely that shit unhinged. So he loves unhinged shit. We already knew that.
There's another Elijah Wood horror movie, something about mannequins.
Oh, I've heard about that one.
Yes, highly recommend. We should have a Elijah Wood day
So,
on the
okay,
pod.
we've been throwing around a lot of ideas. We will eventually at some point have a doll movie month, and perhaps we'll also do a whole month for Elijah Wood as well.
Elijah Wood. There's so many. There's also
Elijah
one.
Wood.
There's also a scary movie with him where he's like a baby and he's like a small child because he's been an actor for 1,000 years.
Oh,
And
I thought you meant like adult Elijah Wood was playing a baby character for some reason, and
I was like, was he in
no.
Boss Baby?
yeah,
He was in Boss
I thought
Baby.
it would maybe be like a CGI thing. I had some follow up questions, but I was also like, I watched whatever that show was, Wilford, whatever it is, where there's the dog, and I was like, I think Elijah Wood absolutely would play a baby in a horror movie even as an adult, and I was like, it didn't seem that crazy to me.
He's got range, you know?
Maybe
to say
that'll
the
be
least.
his next project after he hears this episode.
Yeah, I'll tell Martin Short and Steve Martin.
Steve Martin.
Pass along. Yeah.
Amazing.
Sorry, I'm always forgetting my friends' names. Haha, silly me.
That's because
but
You just have so many of
you
them.
call them cute little pet names in your personal life
Yeah,
that you
it's
can't
just-
reveal them on this pod. But it takes
Yeah.
you a minute to be like, oh, my dear friends, oh, I can't say their nicknames because that's how
It's too personal.
and communicado with them.
Yeah. No, you get it. You totally, that's like nail on the head right there. So, okay, one last thing about these absolute little beautiful boys and how they are best friends in real life. Like, what's the quote? Like, the real lesson was the friends we made along the way or whatever.
Mhm.
The guy who plays Dean said, I don't want to speak for the others, but I feel like I've made 3 brothers for life. Oh!
Cute.
And then the guy who plays DJ Beetroot replied in a flash and said, "Yeah, Ninian, Toby Maguire, and Elijah Wood."
Love them. Also, just gotta
Absolutely
give a shout out to Eddie Izzard, who also produced this movie and plays the Duke. We never actually see Eddie's face within this movie, which I think is perfect because I think if you saw her, it would like distract from
Yeah.
the fact that the Duke and the Duchess are like pretty mysterious, and Eddie Izzard is like so well known. And so I thought it was like wonderful that she produced and was in this movie, and that she like took on this role, but that it wasn't about her at all.
Yes. Oh, she is exquisite in this. You just hear her like disembodied voice throughout the film, and I'm just like, incredible lines after incredible line, and also really great at playing an absolutely unhinged psycho. So props to Eddie.
That said, would Matthew Lillard be a good Duke?
I can't take Eddie out of this film because she is like the magic sauce, the little magic sparkle that you don't expect, and then it's there and you're very happy. But I think that Mr. Carlisle would have been like a perfect place for Matthew Lillard in this because he could have played, like at the beginning where they're trying to make you think that Mr. Carlisle is in on it. With the death thing behind him, and he says some like weird ominous shit, and his
And he
face
talks
is in
about
shadow.
like how young boys don't have leg hair.
Yeah. Yeah, Matthew, I feel like could have added that, like nailed that unhinged energy for sure. And I also would have demanded that he get the haircut that Mr. Carlisle had. I think that would have been really hot for me. So yeah, that's my choice.
I'm in full support of him as Mr. Carlisle.
I will say I did like, I don't know if I'm going to say his name right. I will try this one. Jonathan Aris, I don't know. But he was Anderson on BBC Sherlock, which I don't want to discuss too much, but he had the same kind of like kicked puppy energy that is a little relevant to Mr. Carlisle here. And so I think having seen that show and seeing how Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock like really belittled him at every chance that he got, it brought a little special sauce to this for me. But and I will say it again, and I've said it so many times before, Matthew Lillard in Good Girls does have that same kind of like scolded, belittled energy. So it's still there, you know. He still could have that sauce.
I like the sauce talk. That's making me hungry. Oh my god. Okay, so all right, Matthew Lillard as Mr. Carlisle. We like that. Or as just one of the herd of culling psychopaths. I could also see him there as well.
Mm-hmm.
He could have also maybe have been Hamish.
Oh, or like
Ooh.
Dougie. He could have been a police officer for sure.
Yeah, I could see that.
Like, I think I would have just very enjoyed Matthew Lillard, like, head first into a bread roll at the end of this
Ooh.
movie.
Matthew
liked
Lillard and a ciabatta. All right, kind of me
Right?
up.
Okay, well, with that sexy, sensual image on the mind, now we gotta do our knives out of 5. Oh no, dumb bitch! I forgot dumb bitch! I forgot
I
dumb
mean,
bitch!
technically, we usually do like our favorite death once again. This movie, I mean, I was trying to take notes for body count and attacks, and I put Mr. Carlisle in parentheses, hit with a car by Duncan, but then he didn't die, so I had to put OJK about Mr. Carlisle, and then just put the royal
death.
family parentheses smashed with minibus.
Yeah, that was the best.
So there's really only one death to choose from. It is iconic. I think it should be all of our favorites. But I also
Yes.
think hitting Mr. Carlisle with the bus gets an honorary mention anyway.
Agreed. A lot of great bus-related memes on this.
Yes,
Shout out
and I
to
love that
the
it's called a minibus. That's fun.
Yeah,
to me.
very
Like a
fun.
small bus. Even though
So
I would just
cute.
call it a van.
Right?
Okay, well, so for dumb bitch,
Mhm.
I don't really like have a strong feeling about the dumb bitch because everybody does some dumb stuff, but they all redeem themselves. Except for, well, okay, I do have a strong feeling. Never mind. I take back. I have very strong feelings, and it's obvious who the dumb bitches are. I think. But you guys say what you think now. I just had a complete 180 in 1 second. Everything is shit.
Like I so appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak, but after you were just like it's obvious, but I won't say who. I am terrified to say anything and be wrong. So I will
Okay.
be defaulting.
I'm sorry. It's the police.
Okay. Woo!
Sorry.
I was going to say it could be the police, but it also could be the Duke and the Duchess.
True. There's like a legion of idiots here, I guess, with bad morals and bad at their jobs.
They're not
And it's just
particularly
the
dumb, though.
Yeah.
and it's just the adults of this movie, I think, because you have Mr. Carlisle, the bread thief, stupid.
Yeah, Mr. Carlisle is a good nomination.
All the cops, just dumb, bad at their jobs.
Mhm.
And then the old hunting cult wanting to, kill teenagers. All fucking dumbasses.
All fucking dumbasses. Yeah, I guess the most overt like dumbness of the entire movie is done by the cops though, because like they just like Chelsea was saying, they don't see a minibus fly by them and explode a sheep, like
Mhm.
literally 10 feet away from them.
Yeah.
Like, come on. They're
'Cause there
extra
are-
racist.
Mhm. There are some cops who are so focused on the bread thievery that they don't realize that there are terrorist, pedophile, urban gang, riot zombies running around. And then there are some cops that are not at all concerned with the crime of the century, that is the bread thievery. And they're only looking for 50 young males in hooded tops wearing satanic animal skulls covered in heroin who look undead and are also pedophiles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bad instincts all around because you're a cop, you've got to multitask. There are a lot of different crimes happening at all times. Please let's have a multi-track mind a little bit here.
Just for a second. No, yeah. It's all the cops. All of them together. All of them together. Dougie as well. Even though Dougie's pretty chill most of the time.
Dougie's
But
the only one with the good sense to be like, a lettuce wrap sandwich? This must not stand. And like,
Unacceptable.
that
straw that
because
broke the camel's back.
yeah, have you ever wanted something with bread and you had to have a salad instead? Like disgusting. But once again, both can be important. Like, let's get on that top tier priority board and let's instead let it say terrorist, pedophile, urban gang, riot, zombie, bread thief. You know what I mean? Because it turns out like these two crimes do come together in the end.
Mhm.
They are all related.
It's a
Everything's
full
connected in
circle
this crazy
crime.
life.
Especially
Wow.
once the boys pin the bread thievery on the dukes and duchesses they've just killed so that Mr. Carlisle doesn't rat them out for trying to murder him. You know what I mean?
It's a great deal. It's a
'Cause,
wonderful deal.
yeah, I mean, so police it is. I think no more
Police it
discussion
is.
necessary.
Yeah. Okay, now we're
Now.
gonna do our knives out of five. One day I'll remember them all, but it'll
Where-
be maybe in a year. No, probably not even then.
I think it's charming that we just are winging it every time. Don't you think? It's
Yeah, it's very
so
charming.
sweet of us, so cute.
You wouldn't like it if we were more polished, you know. It would be less
Organized.
fun.
Who's that?
Who is she?
Mhm.
I don't know her.
I mean,
Okay,
unrecognizable. Anyway, so
who
here
wants to
is
go first?
the background, which is that on IMDb, this movie got 6.2 out of 10. On Rotten Tomatoes, critics gave it an 87% fresh, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And then audiences
Deserved.
66%. But it
Idiots.
did win at South by Southwest. It won the Audience Award Midnighters. I don't know enough to know what that means, but they won something at
good.
South by Southwest, and so I am impressed.
I'm impressed as well. I think that percentage and the IMDb score should be way higher. That's like a D. They give them like a D. That's fucked up. How dare they? Idiots, all of them. Furious. I am angry. Who wants to give their rating first?
I'll go.
What did you think, Sid?
Okay. After I watched it a second time with subtitles on, I love this movie. It's so witty. It's so funny. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. Highly recommend watching it with subtitles. And actually, once you pay attention, I was just like not. I had no idea what was going on the first half of this movie, or the first time I watched this movie. But I'm very glad we did watch this movie because it is hilarious.
It's the best. I'm so glad you liked it. When you sent me those texts about being confused at first, I was like, no, not another movie that I recommended that Sydney's gonna hate. But you came around a little bit on The Witch, okay? So I'm glad that you liked this one. I was like, I have bad taste. I really doubted myself.
I'll go next, and I would, my scoring can be kind of generous sometimes. And so, like, I am not exactly sure where I want to go with this movie, but I will say I think that the 87% from critics is a lot more representative of where I would like to be. And doing some math in my head, that's like a 4.35 knives out of 5s. I'm going to bump that up a little bit. There's no real reason it's not getting a full 5 knives from me other than while I liked it and I want to tell all of my friends about it, especially people who've watched The In-Betweeners, I don't know how many times I will like watch it again in the future. It's not going to be like a total comfort film for me the way that like Scream 3 is so important to my life now, you know what I mean? But I want to give it I think a 4.6.
That's a great score. That makes me happy. Well, I'm gonna go wild with this one because like I don't know, I love this the first time that I watched it a few months ago, but like something about watching it this morning, I was like giddy. I was like bouncing up and down on the bed, and Adam was trying to sleep next to me and he was very upset. He kept rolling around and grumbling. And I was just euphoric. I was so happy. And like I wrote this down in my notes, so I guess it's law now. I'm gonna give this a 6 out of 5. I fucking love this movie. I'll watch this again till the end of my days. There's a fucking Run the Jewels song in it. There's a fucking Run the Jewels music video with these boys in it. The collab of the century. Like, this has everything that I want. And it also reminds me of my time studying abroad, and that's like really meaningful to me. I'm kidding. But no, it does. It does. But yeah, anyway, 6 out of 5. I freaking love this movie. I will watch it again and again and again and again.
I want to underscore the importance of that rating. Previously, Monica has not even given out a 5. She gave, for Blair Witch Project, she gave a 4.967. And then for The Witch, she gave it a 4.999 repeating. And so to do the full jump, not just to 5, but to 6, wow.
I think it's because this movie is so otherworldly that I can just like kind of blast past the scale completely and just go there, you know?
I also think we've got to give some acknowledgement that it's like got so many lovely little Britishisms, like when they call somebody a numpty or they're like, you it, like that brings joy to my life.
Bruv.
Bruv. Every time they say bruv, I lose my shit.
Every time they say bruv, I add a point to my knives out of 5s.
Okay, so that pretty much wraps us up for Get Duped. If you listened to this whole thing and you hadn't watched the movie, what's wrong with you? But also go stream it right now. It's included with Prime, so do it. So what do we have on the docket for next week, ladies? Who wants to intro this one?
Ooh, next week we are doing the absolutely spooky movie, The Conjuring.
Ooh. I'm excited for this because I completely forgot what happens in that movie because it's been such a long time. It came out in like 2013, right?
Yes, I also don't remember it. Chelsea, I don't think you've seen it yet, right?
No, but I loved Vera Farmiga and Bates Motel, and so I am ready. And also, as previously discussed, one of you suggested we do a full doll month, and this starts to open the door to that. Is that correct?
100%. We will be covering Annabelle Creation. I've not seen any of the other Annabelle movies, and that's not the first of them, but that one needs to be covered. It's so good. So I'm glad that we're...
I don't even know how Annabelle like fits into the Conjuring world. Don't tell me now. I'm excited to find out. I don't know if I love this movie. But...
I don't remember.
Oh,
but you might. You might. Who knows?
Surprise for all of us. I cannot wait.
If you liked what you heard and you want to hear more, follow us on social at spooky_Tuesday on Twitter and on Instagram. And if you're still on Facebook, go to facebook.com/spookytuesdaypod. And please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts if you like what you heard. Thanks for listening.
Bye, Spookies!
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Haidt, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamra Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Captain Tamra, and our podcast art is by Mary Murphy, who you can find on Instagram at the_moon_OMG.
4 boys, 3 ugly and Caucasian. One a sexy, well-hung Asian. None of them really of high-kin persuasion. Dumbstruck in a role liaison.